quickly check where these tracks are going. Very good comment yesterday about how large it seemed that Sindile's paws were, and his tracks looked a lot larger than, say, a female's. What I've got here looks like a female's tracks. It's difficult to tell at the moment because they're pretty similar sized to Sindile's, but let's have a look. Nothing else on top of them, which is nice. Right, let's follow them and see where they lead. They will eventually lead to a leopard, but whether we'll be able to follow them all the way there, who knows? They walk very, of course, so you have to be particularly careful. See where he goes here. Now these tracks are probably from, they look like they're from last night, to be honest. They might be from this morning. It can be very difficult to tell. They're not coming along here, so we probably just go a little bit along this road and then turn around and see if they don't go along the other road. We had him on a termite mound here just last night. Okay. Andre was on that termite mound last night. Okay, we're just going to turn around here and come back the way. I think it looked like the tracks were either heading down there or they may have been going into the block. If his mother hasn't come back, he will have done sort of little circuits around the place, trying to find himself a francolin or a scrub hare to eat. So while we look for the leopard, apparently we've got some hyena questions, which we'll chat about. Hello, Sibusiso and Hammanskraal. Excuse me not looking at you all the time because I'm going to just keep checking the road for the tracks. Sibusiso, you want to know if albinism has ever been recorded in hyenas. I'm sure it has. I haven't ever seen it and I haven't read about it, but I don't see why it wouldn't have happened. And certainly leucism, or slightly lighter versions of hyenas, I think is probably quite likely. Thank you for that, Sibusiso. Right, I don't have the tracks anymore, so I think he's headed off in there. Hello, Edward. Edward, you want to know if one of those hyenas was perhaps one of the ones I had a close encounter with the other day. First of all, Edward, no, probably too far away. Not impossible, but I think it was too far away for that. And for those of you who weren't watching yesterday morning, oh, not yesterday morning, a few mornings ago, obviously a large slap on the wrist for your tardiness. No, obviously not. But I had a bit of an incident, well, not an incident, that's a bit more ominous than it was. But normally a hyena, when you see it in the bush, will just run away. And I was just wandering about looking for some leopard tracks, and I saw a hyena, and she came wandering up, and she stopped, and she didn't run. So I walked straight towards her, and she went around a termite mound and looked a bit at me, and it was a little disconcerting because a hyena will normally run away, and a hyena is much stronger than a human being and much faster, but you don't worry about it because they normally run off. So I found myself with a stick in my hand hitting a tree, shouting, "For that!" which eventually had the desired effect. We're going to go across to Scott. He's refound the lions. I think they're now, unfortunately, doing what lions do best. So while I look for the leopard, you enjoy the lions, and we'll see you just now.
Well, welcome back, everyone. And a pleasant surprise, they are not sleepy lions like you thought they were going to be, but they're still on the move. They've been moving through a very thick block, so we just waited until this opportunity where they've crossed over Central Road. They're heading in towards the riverbed below the Djuma waterhole. And what a morning it's been. I hope you've all enjoyed being with us. And what will they do next, these lions? Huge apologies for making everyone panic earlier about mentioning that it could have been the Styx males that were coming to investigate Junior's vocalizations a little bit earlier, and here he is actually. So huge apologies for that. I was also concerned for his well-being, and for those of you who don't know me very well, those are some Franklin that have just been chased off by some other lion that you could hear chirping away frantically. Look at the steam coming out of his mouth. Absolutely awesome. And again, I must apologize. I get quite excited in these scenarios, and my excitement overwhelmed logic, and it was more logical to assume that it was the rest of the pride that was communicating with him. So that was an error on my part. And I got an interesting question through from Sean on another coalition of male lions called the Birmingham Coalition, and they have just been located a few minutes ago by Craig on the northern boundary of Buffalo's Hook property, very close to the Magnaletti Reserve. So they are of no threat to this young male, Junior, and sadly they're also gonna not be around for us to see if they continue back north in towards the Magnaletti. Okay, let's carry on and see if we can find a gap here. There's a little 2-track that will take us down into the riverbed, and then we'll find out where these lions decide to lie up. So let's take this little pathway down. I'm guessing they may find a shady spot now and relax for the rest of the day, but there's only one way to find out, and that's to follow them. So thankfully we do have this little sneaky path taking us into the Mulwati riverbed. Take a moment to watch these two youngsters move off. It's quite tricky filming and following lions simultaneously, so we will occasionally stop and try and make the most of any visuals we can show you of them before looping ahead to the rest of the pride. They appear to be continuing south straight through this riverbed, so we may get lucky and have them on the move for a bit longer than expected. I was really thinking that I'd come and find a cool, shady spot down here and relax, but that is not necessarily the case. Stop right here with a great low angle on these two youngsters. And they're enjoying a bit of playtime after all the heated buffalo interaction that they were exposed to this morning. There's still a lot those two young girls need to learn about hunting, and especially hunting buffalo. Now I need to try and remember which is the best pathway through here, and I think this is it. Got a question through from Carol asking whether or not Junior could take over this pride, and yes, he could, certainly, but he won't be allowed to. Large dominant males will chase him off before he gets that opportunity, so so we don't have to worry about him continuing to mate with his sisters and mothers and aunts. He will be booted out and find a pride of his own, hopefully one day, if he is or does manage to be successful on that. But there's no guarantees. Well, I've got myself into a bit of a pickle here, so it'll be a few minutes before we find a way out of this area. Kevin would like to know if I know which one is Junior's mother, and no, I don't. It'll be one of the two larger, older lionesses, but I'm not sure exactly which one it is. And I'm sure somebody out there knows, but I sadly don't have a clue.
So that's why we've driven along a road, we've turned around and we've come back out this sort of way to see if they don't pop out somewhere here. And I was just saying to Gendray on the back there that, you know, this fellow, every time we see him, excuse me, every time we see him, he might be on a termite mound, but he doesn't sit out in the open. And so you've got to look quite carefully. He likes to lie under a bush or next to a bush or in the long grass on a termite mound. So he's quite sort of secretive, which is totally normal, of course. Plenty of hyena tracks. Hang on a second. I'm going to turn around here. Apparently, I'm getting garbled reports on the radio of him being found east of the airstrip, which is not far from here. So we'll make our way gently down there. Anna Marie and Teresa, and anybody else who's perhaps wondering, this is my last game drive before a little break. I will be returning after my break. I'm going to do a little consulting job at a tiger project in Russia. So for the next 18 days or so, well, I'll only be in Russia for 10 of them, but I'm going to be away and I'm going to be evaluating a project that looks for the David Shepherd Wildlife Trust that looks after a sort of tiger project up in northern Siberia. And apparently, I'm not sure if they've actually seen a tiger there, but the Siberian tiger, or Amur tiger, is the rarest subspecies of tiger. And so I'm hopefully going to see one. If I do, I shall send you a picture and tweet it to you. But that's what I'm going to be doing. Otherwise, I shall spend a little bit of time with my parents so that they may look after me. And then I will be back here. Are there any stations with that young male leopard? I'm going to go back to Scott. His signal seems to be returned. And I'm going to just follow up on the garbled reports of Sindile from here. We'll see you just now.
Welcome back, and apologies for the break in signal. Our antenna got knocked down as we probed through those guarri bushes, and the lion were lying up just on the opposite side of that, and this is where they will continue to sleep for, I'm certain, the rest of the day. They may shift position ever so slightly to make sure they stay in the shade as the sun drifts over to the west. But other than that, I'm fairly certain we'll find them here this afternoon. I don't plan on spending too much longer with them this morning. We've had some really incredible action with them. And now that they're going to be asleep for the rest of the day, we'll probably head off in the next few minutes and go and look for anything else exciting happening in and around Djuma. Spotted Aussie in Perth would like to know, how do lions go about interacting with one another, of coming across new coalitions for the first time, with special mention of Junior, and if he were to come across other males, what would they do? Would it be body language initially, or would they come straight into a fight? Well, with lions, the experience that I've had is that they will often charge in and fight or flee. So one pride or coalition may decide to run off and the other may decide to fight. Either way, it's often confrontational. And the interesting thing is, you may have male lions that have never seen one another. The first thing they will do is have a fight, then they could lie down next to one another, and in the next few days become friends and join up as a coalition. I've heard of various stories over the years of different scenarios where lions will initially fight when they first meet up, but then later they will become friends and spend the rest of their lives together as a coalition. So a fight will often be had even between established coalitions. You may have some seriously heated fights after years of them knowing one another. Over ladies is particularly what they will fight over. So it's not uncommon for them to fight in order to establish who actually is dominant. There's a few other pride members lying up in the direction of this lioness where she's moving towards, so she may just want to spend some time with them, or possibly wasn't too comfortable here, so they are slightly split up. 5 of them further up on the bank there, and the other, well, now 2, the third little sub-adults also leaving, are left down here, so they could all reposition close to one another. And again, that's fairly common for lions to really bond with one another, and when they do sleep, they could almost all be touching one another. Well, Mary Ann says she's watched a documentary called Lion Gangland on Nat Geo Wild, and she said in that documentary she saw very similar to behavior as to what we are watching here. And I'm glad you're enjoying this, Mary Ann. It's one thing watching a documentary, but watching it unfold live certainly does give you a far more realistic insight into the lives of lion. And aren't we all lucky to be experiencing this action live? Just going to reposition, or actually, I'm just trying to establish what we should do next. We don't have the best views, and I'm guessing this youngster that is in view now is going to get up shortly and move closer to the rest of the pride. But for now, it seems to be enjoying this small guarri bush at its nose. There it goes. When it does move off there, we are going to have to reposition, so we may as well just enjoy the last few views of it and then establish how we are next going to get a visual of the pride. Take us a moment or two to get into a better spot, and then what I'd like to do is just recap. Some of you may have just joined the show and not seen all the action unfold earlier. This pride of lion provided us with some crazy action hunting buffalo, and they weren't successful, but we've got to see some really awesome behavior both from the lion and also from the buffalo. Now, these guinea fowl are heading straight towards these sleeping lions, so let's watch what happens here. A lion could try and pounce on one. I'm just going to stop here. The lion are just on the other side of these helmeted guinea fowl, and they are heading straight towards them. And even though they were hunting buffalo earlier, there's nothing stopping them trying to catch on to a guinea fowl. So watch closely here. They don't seem to have... Oh, there's one that I can see has picked up its head. Let's see if one of them go for them. Come on, lion. The lion are just on the other side of that fallen down tree. But I think after all their action this morning, now the guinea fowl have seen them. So now we're going to see the guinea fowl really start chirping. Here they go. And listen to their alarm calls ring out. Oh, I'm getting out of here. The other day I spoke about how quickly they can run, and that may have given you a brief example of how quickly those little legs can move. And here come back a few more just to make sure that everyone knows that these lions are here. You're more than welcome to make your way or get visual from Twin Dams Road, about 100 meters south of the dam. Okay, let's reposition a little bit. I'm not sure we're going to be able to get the best view. We may be able to sneak in though. Yeah, it should be okay. And here they are. Notice the one lioness's belly is quite rounded, and that's one of the lioness who fed well last night. It was just the one that I've seen, as well as Junior, that seemed to have had a decent meal. The others may have had a few scraps. And what we can read into that is that she and Junior are the two most dominant and strongest out of this pride, and therefore can acquire the most food when they do make a kill. Well, there's only space for one vehicle here, and somebody is on their way who has yet to see these lions this morning. And after all of our great sightings, I think we should make space and allow them to be in the only real spot that you can be in to view these lions. And what a morning it's been. I certainly didn't expect it from them. When we came across them this morning at Vuyatela Dam, they were, or a few of them were full-bellied and fast asleep, and all of a sudden they got up and we heard a buffalo bellowing. And when we first found them, there were actually only 5 of them together. I'm guessing the other 3 members of the pride had headed off towards this herd of buffalo and tried to catch them when they were just alone with the 3 of them. Then the rest of the pride rejoined, and all 8 of them then backwards and forwards were going at the buffalo. The buffalo were chasing them. Then the lion eventually, after about 5 or 6 backwards and forwards, half-hearted attempts, eventually got the buffalo on the run. And interestingly, it was when Junior had finally joined up with the pride to help them. And the buffalo took off in a northerly direction. They've probably run about a mile with the lion in pursuit of them. We sadly couldn't keep up with them for that, and just found the lion heading back towards where we are now after having failed on the attempt. But we got some really great shots, and if you weren't watching, it's certainly worth tuning into the highlights reel and having a look at some of the incredible footage that VM managed to capture. And well done to you, VM, because when there's so much action going on like that, it can be really difficult to decide what to do and where to film. So well done for capturing all that great action. Now, I can hear the other vehicle, so we're going to have one last look, and then then we will make space for them. If you just give me a second, I'll move out of this spot and then you can come and view. There's only really space for one vehicle. And we'll take one last look of these sleepy lions, and we'll certainly be back with them this afternoon on the sunset safari. And I'm already looking forward to spending more time with them. But for now, I think it's time for us to make space for this other vehicle and go and see what else is going on here at Djuma. I did actually see a zebra nearby at Gowrie Dam, which we're very close to, and it could be heading down for a drink, so we could have some nice action nearby. It sounds like there's a stone caught in between one of the brake discs. It seems to have dislodged itself, so that's okay. 2 nights ago, one of which was wounded quite badly. And yesterday, the day after we saw them fighting, Bob was not at Buffelshoek Dam. And Bob is the local resident hippo there, so we're not sure where he's headed off to. One of the viewers thinks he's eloped with a female that spent a few days with him at Buffelshoek Dam, and that would be first prize. We would hate for him to be injured, but it could be that he is. Only time will tell. This is an Egyptian goose. A blacksmith lapwing calling out from above. They get their name blacksmith lapwings because their call, which you can hear ringing out, is quite similar to that of a blacksmith working on an anvil. And it's just coming down into shot. Oh, it looks like it's bomb diving the Egyptian goose. Who would have thought? Play nicely, little plover. Plover is their old name, so I beg your pardon for confusing you. But they're currently called lapwings. They've moved from plover to lapwing. And it's quite common for bird calls to change, which keeps us on our toes. Well, no sign of the zebra that I saw as we were repositioning to get a better view of those lions. So we shall continue. What I'm going to do now is head towards Twin Dams. There are 2 Styx lioness and 3 cubs most often enter Djuma in and around that area, and I've heard a report that there's a chance that they could be in that area, so it's going to be worth heading over there to double check. So that's our plan for the remainder of the drive. We'll probably be at Twin Dams in about 10 minutes or so, depending on what we bump into along the way. And wouldn't that be incredible if we get to see the 2 Styx lioness and their 3 cubs after already so much lion action this morning?
everybody. Welcome back to Giga. I had sort of given up on trying to find Sindile, but as we stopped here to look at these magnificent zebra, and there's some waterbuck just to the right of them, I looked down over the edge of the vehicle and found his tracks again on the road here. And they're obviously from this morning. And apparently somebody did see him around right where we are now. And I'm wondering if perhaps he isn't about. We had some squirrels alarm calling. We checked around there, didn't find him. We went up onto the airstrip and around there and didn't find him, obviously. If we had found him, we'd have come to see you. So I had sort of given up, but I've now seen his tracks here. So we might just do another turn around here just on the off chance. But before that, just look at this lovely little mixed herd. And across the road there are a whole lot of impala, with one or two more waterbuck. And they're all, I don't know where they're going. They're sort of heading in the general direction of Arathusa waterhole. So maybe they're eventually going to make their way down there. But they're rather fascinated by us. Shaking his little heart-shaped nose at us, or had a heart-shaped nose. The zebra have now given up on their migration and they're going to have something to eat. It's starting to get quite warm. The thick jackets are off. And it's a lovely feeling about the place, I must say. They're quite bad-tempered, these zebra, you know. Beautiful shot of them coming through the golden green leaves. It's always I say this again and again, but it's so important to sit and listen every so often. So we had those squirrels alarm calling around here. Just listen carefully if there isn't some other form of alarm call. Yesterday, the impala spotted Sindile at about 100 meters. So, you know, if he's around here, more than likely they'll spot him. That's not to take away from the fact that standing and looking at zebras this magnificent isn't a perfectly marvelous morning activity. Hello, Halal Bonner. You say that nature never ceases to amaze you in all her variety. Halal Bonner, I cannot but agree with you 100%. And, you know, while we drive around here, yes, of course, the focus is to find often to find the sort of track the more rare animals like the leopard or the lions, which the iconic sort of big wildlife of Africa. But looking at a picture like that, with those stunning zebra, especially silhouetted as they are against the light, and that beautiful color of the leaves in the winter is just, I mean, that's really special. Now, I hope nobody just made the joke about there's a zebra crossing. Lovely animals, they really are spectacular. There are 3 species of zebra that we get in South Africa, but only one here. Hello, Liz in Wisconsin. You want to know if one of these zebra is maybe pregnant? I'm just going to extricate my powerful binoculars and see. Liz, you know, it's difficult to tell always with zebra unless they're about to give birth because they're hind gut fermenters, so their bellies always look slightly full with gas. That's why whenever they get a fright or run away, they tend to make obscene noises, flatulence as they go. But Liz, I'm the one sort of on the leftish of your picture now, in the foreground, could possibly be pregnant, but I wouldn't put my money on it. You can just see how that black and white color makes them stand out enormously. So we get 3 species of we only get 3 species of zebra or 4 species of zebra in Africa, and then one other equid, as far as I'm concerned, called a wild, as far as I'm aware, called a wild ass, which looks more like a donkey than a horse. As far as I know, none of them have been successfully domesticated. There was apparently some lord who had a, I think it was a Johannesburg mining magnate, or he may have been a Cape Town businessman early on in South Africa's colonial history, and apparently he had a carriage drawn by a couple of zebras, but they do not lend themselves to domestication. Another zebra crossing and crossed. Right, let us press on from here. We're going to press on from here. I think we're going to head on towards Djuma. I can't hear anything. Alarm calling. We might be lucky there. Hello, Maggie in Kansas. Interesting question. You want to know about the size of zebra. They're the same size as a horse. Well, Maggie, it depends really on the horse. They're not nearly as variable in size as horses are. So, you know, a big horse, a Shire horse will get up to probably 18 or 18 and a half hands, and that's pretty big. These are just below horse size. So horse size would be defined as 15 hands. And these are like ponies, so they're probably about 14 hands high. And if you don't know how that works, a hand is measured like that. So 14 of those, you'll get an idea of the 14 hands. So sort of pony size, Mark. Right, we're going to pop across to Scott, who has found some large grey pachyderms. And I must thank you all for your well wishes on my travels, but I will see you briefly before I go, and we're just going to go across to Scott and enjoy the elephants with him, and I'll see you just now.
Look at how wonderful this is. It's a big elephant cow, and she's coming quite close to us. What a morning it's been. And before we could even get to Twin Dams, where we were hoping to go, we bumped into a herd of elephants. I've seen 4 so far, and who knows how many are still going to be coming. They do appear to be feeding towards us, and that's great because we can just sit and wait and let them decide how close they would like to get to us. They're such peaceful animals, and after a fairly action-packed morning, it's very soothing to be sitting with them now. The trunk of an elephant is one of the most bizarre adaptations and pieces of equipment that any of the animals out here in Africa have. Imagine if your nose was that long, and not only that long, but you were capable of using it as an extra limb in order to pick up whatever you need to feed on, to suck up liquid that you'll then blow into your mouth to drink. It really is quite crazy, and it's incredible how dexterous they are with these trunks. The African elephant has a prehensile fingertip on the edge of its trunk, and this would allow it to be able to pick up something the size of a peanut. The Indian elephant lacks that prehensile fingertip, so it's one of the differences between the two. Indian elephants also have far smaller ears than that of the African elephant, so those are two main characteristics that differ the two species. Now that the big cow moved behind some thick bush, we'll be able to head across to, I think in all likelihood, her calf, who's just feeding up ahead of us here. It looks like a young bull, so a small chance it may give us some adolescent entertainment, and they can be quite cheeky and curious with the vehicles and occasionally come charging up to us. It hasn't happened to me for quite some time, but it really is fun when they do. It's incredible how silent a herd of elephant can move through this vegetation, as dry as it is at the moment. And if you listen now, you wouldn't think that there's a herd of huge animals weighing many tons moving through this vegetation, and that's an important lesson to learn, especially if you are ever on a walking safari. Don't be fooled by silence, as there could be anything lurking nearby, even these massive elephants. And if you do come across a breeding herd of elephants when you are on a walking safari, you do need to be very cautious. Mothers will be highly protective of their young, and as a general rule, when you come across a breeding herd of elephants on foot, you should head in the opposite direction unless you've got a very safe point from which to view them. We're going to reposition shortly. We'll maybe get one more view of this youngster as it passes by, but it too is going to disappear into some thick vegetation, and I think the rest of the herd may be a better bet for us. So, let's wait a second. It appears like this youngster, even though it's behind this thick bush, is showing a little bit of interest in us. And let's see if it is possible for them to somehow show you it through this thick bush. We'll just give it a moment or two. It is looking a bit too thick at the moment. And if any of you are joining for the first time, this is a live safari, so it's happening this very second. And we would love to answer your questions. So if you would like to send any questions through, you hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Also, while we wait for these elephants to pop into a clearer view, it's important to know that James is heading off on leave today, if he hasn't already mentioned that, and Brent will be returning. So always sad to wave off one of our teammates, but our breaks are much needed, and James has been working his first full stint for Wild Earth, and he's done about a 6-week stint out here, day in and day out, and he needs his break, and Brent, thankfully, is coming back to take his place. So any of those of you who may have been missing Brent, not to worry, he will be back with us for the Sunset Safari. Just going to reposition. It looks like we need to in order to show you these beautiful animals. Liam's just spotted a little gap behind us here that could work quite well. Sorry about that squeaking noise you can hear. It's from all the off-roading we've been doing this morning, and we'll tend to it after drive. Okay, well, I'm going to reposition because I think the rest of the herd are in a small clearing that we can make the most of shortly. I'm guessing they're going to probably continue in the same direction that these other two we've just left are moving in, so they should come walking past us. Just wait here for them to do that, and that way they can decide how close they would like to come to us rather than us imposing on them. So it's 4 in total now. I've seen a 5th on the other side of the ones we're looking at now, but it's too difficult to see from here. So at least 5 members in this herd that we've seen, but there could well be more. And I'm just trying to see what this cow is deciding to do. It looks like and you'll often find them lifting up fallen down trees to access plants that haven't yet been fed on, and they need to really almost search in little hiding places to find their tasty treats. Looks like some other members are about to cross the road in front of us, but they are moving so slowly this morning that it's making it tricky to get you into the right spot. While we wait for these elephants to pop into view, James has got a great angle on some beautiful antelope, so over to him and we'll see you later.
Hello everybody, we're just sitting here drawing you away from the elephants because we're sitting in a drainage line eye level with this lovely young Nyala bull. So we're just going to have a quick hello to him and then I'll send you back to the elephants. It's just very unusual to have them at this angle so you can see him. You know, we're usually sitting quite far above them, and this time he's actually looking down on us. Young bull, you can just see his horns have erupted, and he's with his mum nearby. He's almost the same size as she is now. He's a magnificent little fellow. Anyway, as he turns back into the bushes, we'll send you back to the elephants, which I hope you are thoroughly enjoying. We're around Twin Dams, and we're going to just have a look, see if anything is drinking there. See you now.
Welcome back. It looks like finally we're going to get a great view of these animals, at least temporarily. It's a very big cow with beautiful tusks up ahead of us. And I've noticed a few more, so certainly more than 5, at least about 9 or 10 elephants in this area. And we could be pleasantly surprised with even more approaching from the thick vegetation off to our left. Animals certainly are making it tricky to film this morning, but at least they're around. The lion were no different this morning with their buffalo hunting antics. Back around the 20th of July, and Jamie, who was here on interview about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, is going to be joining us full-time from the 13th of July. So she's going to be on the crew, and we look forward to getting to know her a lot better. She just spent 1 or 2 nights with us when she was here on interview, but also great that we've got a lady in the team of presenters now, and certainly looking forward to having her with us. A little youngster using its foot to help break off some pieces of grass, it looks like there. And it's always interesting watching youngsters because it takes them many years to become proficient with their trunk. And look at this one biting on its trunk almost frustratingly, almost in a frustrated fashion, because it's maybe not doing exactly what that young elephant wants it to do. They're very complex tools, the trunks, and I've got 180,000 different muscle fascicles within them, which is what makes getting the hang of them a little bit tricky for young elephants. While we wait for these elephants to emerge from this thick bush, James has found an exquisite bird that he would like to show you. So over to him, and we'll see you later.
Hello everybody, welcome back again. A brief cameo of the saddle-billed stork. And you can see in the water there's definitely been some sort of algal bloom as the water has dropped. This has happened in the last day or two, I think. I haven't seen this dam so green, and I wonder if it will happen in any of the others. No doubt feed a whole lot of different suites of creatures, and some of the fish will quite like it, I'm sure. Definitely some bubbles from catfish there. But the most worrisome thing about that stork, and I'm pretty sure now that some awful fate has befallen the male. That's the female, and the male, they should be together, and we were seeing them together all the time, and I think, and I've seen this one now at 3 different water holes on her own. I think the male has been smacked by some predator. Possibly a leopard, possibly a much larger raptor, eagle, perhaps. But I think the male is no more. So I do hope she finds another one. These are endangered birds, of course, so I hope she finds another partner at some stage. I'm not sure how she would, but these birds seem to find a way. Everything is now completely peaceful. There's a little grey lory calling half-heartedly off to the left. Not even bothering to say the full go away. It's getting quite hot. There's a little blacksmith plover off to one side, or blacksmith lapwing as they're called now. Also not making any noise at all. And Jean-Andre, maybe we could just have a quick look up here to where there is a virtual starling and a red-billed hornbill just sitting enjoying the mid-morning sun, having a preen. And in case you don't remember your biology from early school, preening, of course, is what birds do. They've got little oil glands, and they cover their feathers in oil to keep them in good nick, which is, of course, very important for flying. Right, and as we leave those birds to beautify themselves in the rays of this majestic sun, we're going to go back across to the elephants with Scott, and I'll see you just now.
Welcome back, and glad you got to see not only one pretty bird, but also the starling and the hornbill at the end. I'll notice there how she is brushing that piece of grass that she's just broken off against her chin. She's doing that to dust off any sand, as she'll be aiming to feed on the roots mainly at this time of the year, and we may notice the rest of the grass drop out of her mouth as she chews off the roots. Let's see if we've got a decent angle, or will she consume it all? It looks like she may have had that whole mouthful. Well, while we enjoy this very peaceful sighting of elephants this morning, Remay is interested to know if there's any updates on two male leopards that we used to view very regularly, Kunyuma and Quarantine. They are the sons of Karula, and they're just over 2.5 years of age now, so they've started heading off and trying to establish their own territory elsewhere. And I don't have a clue where they are, Remay, at the moment. Although we did have tracks yesterday afternoon that could have been of either of the two. It looked like a younger male, and also that combined with the fact that we knew where Tingana and Mvula are, the other large male leopards of this area. It's fairly safe to say that one of them could have been around Buffelshoek Dam yesterday afternoon, but I haven't heard any confirmed sightings of them for quite some time now. So I can't help you on an exact update on them, Remay. Okay, well, we've got a very large animal here, the elephant, but James has found another very large animal that he would like to show you. So over to James, and we'll see you all a little bit later.
Hello everybody, lots of fun little things we found today, and then we found a rather large fun thing, and this is a beautiful giraffe bull, and he's just standing here doing pretty much what those hornbills and starlings were doing, just enjoying the last rays, or the sort of heating rays of the mid-morning sun. They stand so beautifully still when we come upon them, because they really seem to find us as fascinating as we find them. He's chewing his cud. His little cheek pouches are full of what I'm sure is fairly disgusting bolus from the middle of his stomach. And Mary, I believe you wanted to see a giraffe today, so there you go. We do what we can. You can see, I mean, quite apart from the obvious, he's got a bit of, I say he, because he's got fairly bald horns at the top, square bald horns, and then on his neck, it's quite a nice way to age him, he's got a sort of ectoparasite that eats away at the fur, and that's quite a nice way of aging them. Some people will tell you that giraffes get darker as they get older, which can be true, but the females tend to not change too much. They can actually sometimes get lighter, and the bulls do sometimes get darker, but that skin condition is a typical thing that all giraffes get. So I would put him at roughly 13 or 14 years, I would say. I think they'll probably live up to 20 in an environment like this. He's a magnificent bull. Chewing away at his cud. Now just watch carefully. The most amazing thing, if you watch him swallow, I don't know, John, how? Yeah, now you'll be able to see him swallow. Watch him swallow here. Now come on, swallow, giraffe. And then once he's done it, you'll be able to see the bolus coming up from the stomach. You'll be able to see it come up his neck. Watch his neck now. Watch, there it goes. Did you see that, John?
Yeah.
So that's him basically vomiting into his mouth and now re-chewing it, which is fascinating to see. I'm very, very, very grateful that my digestive system does not require me to do that. Jean-Ray was a bit greed about the gills yesterday, so he's probably feeling the same way again after watching that. So, Ramey, I think that this giraffe is probably about 13 or 14 years. That would be my guess, but I couldn't tell you for sure. That noise is another game drive coming up behind us, to which the giraffe has reacted with some sense of distaste, I think. So, everybody, the time has come for me to bid you all a fond farewell. It has been a magnificent 6 weeks that I have spent in your company. For those of you who are new, I'm also quite new. I've only been here about 5.5, 6 weeks, and it would have been 6 weeks on Friday. It's been a fascinating time. I stopped guiding people in the bush some time ago, and I've really had a fantastic learning experience with all of you. The questions and comments and immense love that you have for the African wild from all over the world, from Hawaii to Australia to Finland, to the Netherlands to Switzerland to Britain to Canada. I'm sure I've left out a few, and especially those wonderful kids at the Dayton Children's Hospital in Ohio. It's just been fantastic getting to know you all and understanding, even Japan and Greece apparently, just getting an understanding of how incredibly special the African wild is to the whole world. And that's been a real privilege. So thank you all for that. Thank you to Jean-Dre for today, for Brian and Viam and Andrew for all the other drives, Tara and Nikki in the control room, Eugene with his soldering iron and screwdriver, and of course Scott and Brent, and all of the help that they've given me as I've sort of got used to this thing. And I'm going to try and fulfill one of my animal bucket lists outside of Africa, and that will be to see a tiger in the wild, perhaps in Siberia. And that's what I'm hoping to do. I don't think they see many tigers there, but that's what my goal for this next few weeks is going to be. So thank you very much. Please join Brent and Scott for the afternoon safari. I've no doubt they will find you some amazing things, and the irascible Brent will be refreshed and no doubt rejuvenated and highly excited after his leave away. So thank you all again, and I will see you in 2 weeks' time.